Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So today we will discuss after the birth, the first Lila of Krishna. That is the killing of Putana. We'll see in these Lilas, even in the Lilas in Braja, we'll find, even though it's considered very sweet, we will see there are displays of Aishvarya, or power of Krishna. Even though he's just a little child, he will display these powers. So we'll see he kills so many demons, and even in his first year, he kills Putana and Trinavarta and Sakatasura, etc. And then he goes on and he kills Bakasura, Agasura, and so many other demons. And a lot of the pastimes involve this. Actually, not everything, but these things are mentioned. So these are not the only pastimes, of course. Those are the display of Aishvarya. So is also the display of his sweetness as well. Sometimes the pastimes are not so, let's say, extraordinary. This is like Krishna playing with the cowherd boys, or Krishna playing with the cows and things like this. But those descriptions are also there in the Bhagavatam. And then, of course, there are Leelas like breaking of the pot, etc. So, there's both types of pastimes are described. However, these, even though killing the demons is a display of power, which is a little bit contrary to the mood of sweetness, nevertheless, they also have a function in that they actually display the great power of the sweetness of the love of the inhabitants of Braja. Because in spite of the power that Krishna displays, the sweetness hides it. So they don't recognize Krishna as God. And he displays himself as God, who's all-powerful through killing the demons, but the sweetness of their love is such that they never think about it, that this is God. They have some excuse for understanding he's not God. This is their son. So that displays the great power of their love. So in that case, it is not a display of Yogamaya covering their consciousness. It's simply a display of the intensity of their prema, that they will not see the Aishvarya aspect of Krishna and think he's God. So after Krishna is born, of course, Nandi celebrates his birth and everything, and goes to meet Vasudeva also. And Vasudeva doesn't reveal that actually he's my son. Doesn't say that. He hides that. And he goes back. But actually, when Vasudeva comes back with the cowherd, and then he sees that actually Krishna has already killed a big demon. When he comes back, they find that Putana is lying there dead. So he was just a new baby, actually, when this first incident took place. He was a few days old or something. So Krishna was very, very young when this happened. So of course Putana was sent by Kamsa, and she's called a Rakshasi, and Rakshasis have great powers, so they can change their form at will. Rakshasis are actually part of there's a female Rakshasa actually. Rakshasas and Rakshasis are inhabitants of Bhuvarloka, which is just above us. And that's the place where all the different entities, subtle entities reside, like Gandharvas and ghosts and Rakshasas and other beings. There's a big list in the Bhagavatam of the different creatures that reside there. But they all have great powers, more than we have. So the Rakshasas are also considered powerful, and they can do these mystical things. They're also quite famous because generally these Rakshasas are the ones that eat people. They're man-eaters or baby-eaters or whatever. They like to eat human flesh and drink their blood. So actually at the end of that chapter, 6th chapter, she's described as Rudirasana, one who drinks blood. evil creature, and she was sent by Kamsa. And she disguised herself in a very beautiful form, so beautiful that the inhabitants of Raja could not recognize her. But we cannot say that they were ignorant also. So this is where the Yogamaya comes in. Like Krishna hid the fact that she was a Rakshasa from them. If they were in the ordinary consciousness, they would immediately see this is a material person here. But due to Yogamaya, they didn't see that, and they simply saw her as a beautiful woman and thought, oh, maybe this is Lakshmi herself. She's so beautiful. And therefore, they let her in the house. Normally, they wouldn't let her in the house, but she could go to any house she wanted to in Braja. And finally, she came to Yasoda's house, and Yasoda and Rohini let her in the house, just like that, even though she's a stranger. Why? Because they were impressed. She's so beautiful. She must be Lakshmi. She's a devata or something come here. She has somehow some power. They never thinking like that. So therefore, they let her in. So this, of course, was again Krishna's will. That didn't happen. Otherwise, he doesn't have to allow this at all. But for his pastimes, he did this. So then she picked up Krishna, and she had poison on her breast, and she fed Krishna her milk, and Krishna sucked her life air out. Instead of sucking the milk or the poison, he actually sucked out her life air. So in this and in other stories like the Trinavarta story and Sakadasura, this is a display of Krishna's power. So what was Krishna's power here? His mouth. With his mouth he held onto her nipple and he wouldn't let go. And she was screaming and yelling and whatever. And then she was, her life air was going out, and then she turned back into her big Rakshasa form, and she ran out of the house and she flopped over dead. And still, Krishna wouldn't let go. She was trying to pull him away, and he was kicking and holding on like this. And his feet were, kicking her in her like this. So she got the touch of his lotus feet, but rather negatively. She didn't want him. She was trying to avoid him and get him away, but he was holding on like this with his mouth. So this displays the power of Krishna's mouth. Later we'll see that when Trinavarta comes, then Trinavarta takes Krishna away, and because of course first he's very heavy, so Mother Yasoda puts him down. She can't figure out why he's got so heavy suddenly, even this little boy, and couldn't hold him, so she puts him down. And then Trinavarta picks him up, and he's very light. And so he flies up in the sky with him. But then Krishna becomes very heavy again. And then he can't, Krishna won't let go of him, holding onto his neck like this. And he's trying to get free, but he can't because Krishna's arms are so powerful. And then Krishna becomes very heavy, and then Trinavarta falls, breaks and smashes himself on the rocks. So that's the display of Krishna's hands. And then we see with Sakadasura, Krishna's little feet kick up in the air, and suddenly the cart breaks and the Sakadasura gets killed. So there's a display of his little feet being very, very powerful. So though he's got a little body like a little baby, he has immense powers. Without any effort with that little body, he can do immense things. So this is a display of his powers in different ways with his feet, his hands, and his mouth. So therefore Krishna did this. He just held on and kept sucking and sucking, and her life air went up. And then she ran out of the house. She expanded her form, and she crashed over. The remarkable thing about when she fell, she didn't hit any of the houses in Braja, but she hit the trees. But actually, these were the trees of Kamsa, and that was his forest. So it didn't display anything, it didn't destroy any of the Braja. She couldn't destroy it. So when she ran out and then she fell on Kamsa's forest, his garden, and destroyed his garden instead. So in that way she left her body. And Krishna was still there. And he was holding on to her. So when everyone, Mother Yasoda and Rohini fainted, of course, and everyone else came running, all the women came running, and then because they heard all this noise, and then heard this Rakshasa interesting point about this story comes at the end, or just before the power had been returned. And that is when Putana ends up dead. And then the Bhagavatam describes that actually, though she was a Rakshasi, and she wanted to kill Krishna, and she wanted to drink blood, she had very bad intentions, she attained Sadgutim. In other words, she didn't go to hell and she didn't get another birth in the material world. Sadgutim means like the eternal goal or whatever, or the high spiritual goal, whatever. So that is very, very astonishing how, because she was a demon, she could get that type of goal. And then a few verses later, again it describes that she actually she became Janani, which means like mother. Mother. Later on, Buddha also says Datri, which means nurse. So the conclusion of the Acharya actually is she couldn't be a mother because she couldn't be Mother Yasoda, obviously, because Mother Yasoda is eternal. She could be like a mother in some sense, but not the real mother. So therefore, they take that Janani there, and she's only Datri, she's like a nurse. But even then, the Acharya say that even she's not a direct nurse, that she could never directly come to Krishna in this way. She resides in another place called Goloka, not Gokul, but Goloka, which is filled with awe and reverence. Krishna's there, but it's full of awe and reverence. And she resides there. And she can worship Krishna in reverence, but she cannot directly associate as the Mother Yasoda or the inhabitants of Raja associate with Krishna. There's an interesting verse, actually. I'll put it up here. Krishna, that's like in Bhagavad Gita, it says that in chapter 9. So the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas, what will they attain? If even Krishna says the Sudras and the Vaishyas can attain the highest goal like that. So how much more? If this is so, she can attain that goal, then how much more others could attain the goal? So in other words, they get much more than whatever she got. So that's called Kimuta Nyaya. It's kind of a poetic convention they have. Kimuta, Kimpuna. How much more? If this is so, then there's so much more for someone else. So this is actually what is expressed here. And actually Vishnu Chakravarti takes this Kimpuna analogy for all aspects of this Lila. So if Putana, who was a Rakshasi, got this, how much more anyone else would get? So if we're not wanting to kill Krishna, we're just neutral, not a devotee even, then they would get something more. And if they're actually favorable to Krishna, with Shraddha, with faith, then they should get more than that. And if they're, of course, they have mixed bhakti, of course they would get more than that. And if they have Ananya bhakti, they get more than that. And if they had achieved prema, then how much more they must have got. So if one may have various degrees of unfavorableness or favorableness to Krishna. If she got that goal, how much more people who are favorable to Krishna must get ultimately? And how much more the Nitya-siddhas who have perfect devotion or prema, how much they must get? So I cannot say they got exactly the same goal. Even though it says they got similar, she became like a mother. We can never say that they're actually the same. So that is one of the Kimutas, how much more. However, there's a few other things. So that Kimuta are how much more in terms of the faith or the attitude towards Krishna. That's one thing. Then, okay, so the other Kimuta is if we offer to the Lord in any form, then it's good. And of course, this is the case with her. But if we have the source of the avatars, avatari, that is Krishna, then how much more that person should get if actually they offer in any form. If they're a Rakshasa, okay, that's fine, but if they're a devotee and they offer to another form of God, what they would get. But if they offer to Krishna, then how much more they will get. To the avatar, if they offer to the avatari, how much more they will get. So that is, in other words, the Vishaya. Vishaya means the object. In Rasa we have Asraya and Vishaya. Anyone study Necrodosha? Yeah? So we have Asraya and Vishaya. Asraya is the person who's experienced the Rasa, and Vishaya is the object of love. So the object can be anything. In the material world we have material objects, and then we have spiritual objects, any form of God. So that could be Rama or any avatar form, or it can also be Krishna. So the others are avatar forms, and Krishna is an avatari form. So if one takes Krishna, then who's avatari, that if you worship him, you must get a bigger result, because he's the source of everything else. There must be something much more offered to the avatari, that Vishnu. So, then, in terms of the offering itself, what we could offer, Putana offered poison, which was not very nice. And she got Shadgati, she got something from that, she became a nurse. So if we were to offer something which isn't harmful to Krishna, that would be better. And if we were to offer something that Krishna really likes, something pleasing to Krishna, that would even be better. So that was this Priyatama. If we offer what is the most pleasing to Krishna, the most dear thing to Krishna, what he most likes, what we would get then. So, and in terms of the offering also, there is this, how much more. So if she offered poison, she got that. If we offer love to Krishna, pure love to Krishna, how much more we should get. Or if the cows offer their milk to Krishna, and Krishna likes to drink the milk, what gold they should get. Or if the mothers, not Yasoda, but the other gopis, elder gopis, they wanted to have Krishna as their son, and then Krishna incarnated, or he became all the cowherd boys for 1 year, and in that sense he drank all their milk, and he was relishing that. So how much more they should get, because Krishna relished, they offered to Krishna, and Krishna relished, so how much more they should get than having someone offer poison. So this is something that Krishna really liked. So they should get much more. So that's the offering. And then there is the asraya. So Putana was a rakshasi who was unfavorable. She didn't have any bhakti. She hated Krishna, and she was actually a big rakshasi with a terrible form, material form, etc. And she got a body of a nurse in the spiritual world. So if one is rakta means one who is actually in prema to the Lord. If the asraya, the person offering, has prema, then they must get much more. So then who are the people with prema? The people of prema are all the gopis and the elder gopis who are taking Krishna as their son. So they must get something much. And of all those gopis, Mother Yasoda is supreme because she got Krishna as her own son. All the other gopis, they do like to have Krishna as our son also. But actually the great privilege was given to Mother Yasoda. She is the one that got to keep him in her house and feed him every day. Others could do, but it was like they were secondary. So then Mother Yasoda is the number one rakta, one who had prema. She's outstanding in her prema. So she must have got something completely different. So therefore, could not have become that type of Janani, that type of mother. Nevertheless, all of this is stated to show, one, how merciful Krishna is, that he gives a semblance at least of something very wonderful, even to this demon who was trying to kill him because she acted like a mother, therefore she became like a mother in one sense in the spiritual world. So therefore, Krishna was very merciful. So this is one aspect of Krishna. The first day of
not doing this.
No, not anymore. But that's indicated by the fact that when they went to burn her body, it didn't smell. It smells fragrant. Everyone was astonished. Generally, it is very inauspicious to get the smoke from the burning body. It's not like it smells bad, but it's inauspicious to touch it or anything. But when they burned her body, it was fragrant. It had a very attractive fragrance to it. Which means, in other words, when it got touched by Krishna, it was transformed, purified by Krishna's touch.
Means there. Can she progress to the position of Bhakta?
It doesn't say. I would assume not. I don't know. It doesn't say, but I would assume she would be put in that position. It's a mercy case, so she would get stuck in that position. And that's enough. Krishna said that's enough.
Is this verse from Bhanu?
Yeah, it's verse, the verses, I think it's 30-something, 36 or something. 35 and 36, or 36 and 37, like that. It's near the end of the chapter. It's about 4 verses from the end of chapter 6 of the 10th canto.
So this might be the verse that Putana Lila was listening to by Mukunda when Gadadhar Prabhu and Mukunda visited Pundarika Vidyanidhi. And Pundarika Vidyanidhi was very dear to Lord Chaitanya, and he looked like a person who was very materially attached.
Yeah, because he was sitting in a couch and had a spittoon,
full of like oil in his hairs and all that. Gadadhar upon it thought that maybe something wrong here. And then Mukunda Prabhu, he started to recite this verse, and then all the ecstatic symptoms were manifested. Tear down the whole.
This first, it was another verse.
A different verse.
There's another verse.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Ahobakiyam stana kalkutam.
Different verse, similar intent, but I think that's later on. So, anyway, she got that very, very exalted goal as an extraordinary act of mercy of Krishna. So this is one of those great qualities of people do this. And then in verse 38, 37 and 38, that was 35 and 6. So then in 37 and 38, there Sukadeva Goswami says that those feet are actually worshipped by people like Shiva and Brahma, Krishna's feet. But actually they can't even attain those feet. But what happened to her is she didn't aspire for those feet. She didn't want those feet. She was trying to get rid of Krishna and take him away. And Krishna was kind of kicking her like this. So, like forcibly. So it wasn't willingly she got the touch of Krishna's feet at all. She didn't want her at all. She was trying to push Krishna away. It was the opposite. And everyone else is aspiring for Krishna's feet and they can't get it. And she got it. She didn't want it. But Krishna was unmerciful. But anyway, he gave her this great reward. So something very, very remarkable. So she got Goloka. This is not explained in the verse itself, but Vishwanath Chakravarti says she got Goloka, and that Goloka is filled with Sukha and Aishvarya. That is, there's awe and reverence and a sense of happiness. It's similar to what the people who have Sakama Bhakti get. They also get Sukha Aishvarya place. So she got Krishna because Krishna is there, but it's a mode of reverence and respect for Krishna. And she was a nurse, and she didn't directly feed Krishna or anything like that. She was assisting in that form. So she didn't get the same as the people of Raja or anyone who has that same mood. She didn't get the same thing, but she got something. That's the mercy of Krishna. So that's the import of that pastime. So by this it shows his mercy to Putana, and actually it shows Krishna's great exaltation of his devotee, because Putana gets this, how much more the devotee gets. So it emphasizes the greatness of the love of Mother Yashoda and the elder devotees in relation to Krishna, taken as their son. He got Sarupya.
Just because he was the brother of Putana.
Actual reason, he got Sarupya. Anyway, he got Sarupya, which means similar form. So it looks like he got a Vishnu form or something in the spiritual world also. Another act of mercy. Yeah. Yeah. That was also astonishing. And the Devatas, when they saw that, they were shocked. Because, of course, they didn't see the Sarupya, but what they saw is that when Aghasura was killed, then there was this small light came out of the body, a form, and then emerged into Krishna. But then a few verses later, it's like, yeah, he got Sarupya, so he merged into Krishna, then he got his Sarupya. So he didn't get Sayuja, he got Sarupya actually. But that was when the Devatas saw that, they were also shocked. How can he get Sarupya or Salokya even, or Sayuja or anything? Because the Gyanis and other people, the yogis, are trying to get this. And they do all the tapasya and everything. Here's this Aghasura trying to kill Krishna, and then he gets this. So they were rather shocked when they saw that. And Brahma also was shocked. That's why he came down. And when he came down, then now the pastime of the Putana Lila took place, and then Krishna bewildered him also. Yeah, that's one of the qualities of, when we take the qualities of God, one of the qualities of God is that he liberates even the demons. That's one of his remarkable qualities, and particularly so in Krishna's case. And not only gives Sayuja, he also gives other things like Salokya and Sarupya, etc. So quite remarkable. Another story related to this, you can't cover all the stories, but another one is the Varna, which is interesting. That's when Krishna got his name. And then at that time, Nanda called Garga Muni secretly to the place, because if Kamsa found out that Garga Muni is coming over there, he'd be very suspicious. Why is he going to the farm community? He should be back with the others. And why is he going there? And then he'd get real suspicious, and then find out that actually Vasudev's child had come there. So it was all done very secretly. He called him secretly, and for the naming of his children. And he took actually Balaram as his own son also. So then Garga Muni named Balaram as Shankarshan, etc. And but he couldn't also reveal that actually this Balaram was taken from Vasudev's womb, from Devaki's womb, and put in Rohini's womb, because that's another derivation of the name Sankarshan. Means to be pulled out, transferred from the womb, one womb to the other. So that's why he got the name. But then he said he's called Sankarshan because he will pull the two families together. That is the Yadus and the cowherd men. He will unite these two families because he was born there, and he will do some things which will pull the families together and make them friends. So that was his explanation for that name. And then he comes to Krishna's name. And then there's the famous verse that he will appear, and he comes in Anu-yuga, every yuga, the successive yuga, he comes in white, red, yellow. Now he's come as Krishna Samkata, as Krishna. So when he says this, what he means is not that he's the yuga. In one sense, he can't say this to Nanda, that your son is the yuga avatar, because he has to hide the fact that he was born to Vasudeva and he appeared in his forearm for him. He can't say that. So what it means is actually your son he's a Mahapurush, a great personality, who's, by worshipping these forms, has got similarity to them in the different yuga cycles. Each yuga he's done this. He's worshipped the white form and got similarity. He's worshipped the red form and got similarity to that, etc. So that's one meaning of the verse, because later on he says he's Narayan Sama also. He's like Narayan also, and then whenever you should protect him very nicely, and he will protect you. But he doesn't say directly he's God. It's like he's trying to hint at it, but he doesn't say it exactly. And therefore, Nanda Maharaj also doesn't Sukla Raktapita Idanim Krishnatam Gataha. So, the other meaning is that in the different yugas, the Lord appears in these different colors. And when Krishna appears, Krishna is the actual Amsi. He is the source of everything else. These are all Amsas. And Krishna Ta means Krishna, but when you say Ta, it gives it a special significance. So he is actually the source of everything else. All these other forms appear in other yugas, but when Krishna appears, everything appears with him. And he is their source. And when Krishna appears, then all those other amsas appear within him also. That's one meaning of the verse. However, we know later on from the 11th canto, there's discussed that in different yugas they have different colors. We have Satya Yuga has white, Treta Yuga has red, Dwapara Yuga has Shama, and Kali Yuga has Krishna. So these colors don't match also. So it's a little peculiar. You would come in white, red, and yellow, and now you're coming in black form. That doesn't make sense at all, because Krishna appears in Dwapara Yuga, and there's only 2 previous yugas. And so it's a little strange that it's like this. And we also get Pita form here instead of Krishna. It would be Krishna form. And then Krishna should be Shama. So it doesn't quite correspond. Pita is yellow, which is Lord Chaitanya, which is also there in Krishna Bharati Krishna. He's not the color of Krishna, but he is like Krishna, or he is Krishna, but in a different color. That's a little bit esoteric. But here it directly says Pita. So the esoteric way of explaining all this is Vishwanath's explanation, is that he takes the word tata, this is explained, it's a little technical, but he takes the word tata, usually tata comes with yata, as so this is so yata, so tata. Yeah, as like this, so like this, like this. So even if the yata is not there, we should understand it also. Yata, tata. So, this is explained in the next page here. Yeah. That's in the 3rd paragraph. So, just as in Dwapara Yuga, all of the forms appear within Krishna, so in Kali Yuga, all the forms will appear within the yellow form of Lord Chaitanya. So in other words, both are Amsi, both are the original source. So Yata, just as Krishna, everything is in Krishna, all these different forms, so as when the Pita avatar comes, everything will be in him. And so therefore the Pita is not mentioned here as in the sequence, but as with Krishna, as with Pita form, as with Krishna, as with Lord Chaitanya, all the other forms will also appear within him. So that's the other esoteric explanation of this verse. So in other words, it points out that Lord Chaitanya is also not different from Krishna, and he's also the source of everything. So he's not also avatar in the normal, we say Yuga avatar, but actually he's more than that. He is the source of all the avatars, because he's directly Krishna. But this is, of course, a little secret. So anyway, Garga Muni gave this verse, and of course it has all these layers of meaning in it. So the one he was presenting for Nanda was that actually your son is a very great personality, and he's protected by Narayan. So later he says he is Narayan Sama, he is like Narayan. But even that has another connotation. By the construction of the Sanskrit words, it can mean actually Narayan is like him, and he's actually superior to Narayan. Narayan has a similarity to Krishna. And so actually Krishna is superior to Narayan. So that's another esoteric meaning of Narayan Sama. But of course the normal way is he's kind of like Narayan, assumed in an inferior position, and Narayan is his protector or whatever. But the other way of taking it is actually Krishna is superior to him, and that times his upside. So in this way, Garga Muni gave a few hints, esoteric hints about the nature of Krishna. But directly to Nanda Maharaj, he told him to protect his son. Later on, Krishna would protect them. So we'll see throughout the different Leelas, Krishna kills the different demons, and then he lives Govardhana Hill. So all through this, and they all remember, oh yes, Krishna's very extraordinary, because as Garga Muni said, we protected him, and now he's protecting us. And Narayan is helping us all the time. So even though he does great things, their affection covers up any idea that he's God.
In general, they rare he is good, because sometimes in Srimad Bhagavatam you can find the purity to the Lord, Almighty Lord, Master, Universe.
Oh yeah, and even the gopis, they will say, oh, you are Paramatma, this and that. So the explanation of that is in their bhava, in their ecstatic symptoms. Sometimes these realizations will appear as part of their anxiety or whatever. They will see him as God, but then again it will disappear. There'll be a momentary realization. There are certain types of ecstasy, particularly in separation. When they're separated from Krishna, then these different symptoms will come out, and they'll think of him as God. But then later on, they will all disappear again. So like it's temporary. Yeah. Even Mother Yasoda, in this pastime here, Vishwarup Darshan, actually Krishna does this twice, or right once after this, and then again he does it again. 2 times he shows himself as Vishwarupa. And to some degree, yes, Mother Yasoda realizes, oh yeah, this is the universal form. So she has a momentary idea, but then she says, it cannot be. It is impossible. And then she just makes up some other story. It must be I'm dreaming, or it must be and then finally she concludes, well, it must be some evil spirits around here doing something to me, so I got this illusion coming on, so therefore she calls the Brahmins and they do some yagyas. So always their love is such that they'll find some excuse. They'll have a realization and then they'll cover it up. Same with the cowherd men when they see Krishna doing all these things, and they'll think, after it happens so many times, and they begin to think, maybe he is God. And then when Varuna stole Nanda Maharaj, and then Krishna went down in the water and got him, and then Varuna began to pay his respects to Krishna, and all the people there were in reverence and saying, you're the Supreme Lord and everything. And Nanda Maharaj saw that. Then he came back and he told all the cowherd men this, and they began to wonder, like, it puzzled them for a long time. But then again, covered up. Covered up. So that's the intensity of their love.
Why Krishna he does find it at some time?
It's a test of their love, actually. I think in the next, there's a whole quotation
He
here.
understand, no? He understand them. Like sometimes he shows that he is the supreme personality of Godhead.
Yeah.
But why he doesn't then?
Oh, this is as a test to show their prema. And their prema always overcomes that. He'll do it, and their prema will overcome it. So that's to show the greatness of their love. We see with Devaki and Vasudeva, it didn't happen. They could see him as God. And they appreciated it also. But Nanda Yasoda, those people, no, I see him as God. And he would say, oh, here I am, God. No, cannot accept it. It would be covered over. So that means that the greatness of their love for Krishna is stronger than anything he can do to say otherwise or show himself otherwise. And completely cover up their love. So it glorifies their love, actually. And it displays to the world how great is their love. all up to Krishna, of course. When we say extraordinary mercy, we say causeless mercy. Even in the case of, we say we get, Kripa City, that we cannot explain why a person gets it, because normally we have to go through sadhana, and then we can qualify. And sometimes Krishna doesn't. We cannot explain. It's up to Krishna. In the case of Putana, the exact one reason, of course, is because she acted like a mother anyway, and she offered her milk to Krishna even if it was bad intentions. Therefore, he was merciful because of that. There's, I think, another story also that she actually desired Krishna to be her son also. She was the sister of Mharaj, I think, something like that. And she had some slight feeling, when Bhanu was born, that, I would like to have him as my son. So because of that, maybe. That's not mentioned here, but I heard that.
The wonderful mercy of Krishna, banging Putana's body with his little spear.
Yeah.
He did that actually in the form of Lord Chaitanya, when he was bathing in Ganga. And he was splashing water on everyone with his lotus feet. So they were all very fun.
Yeah. But of course that was, they were Rakshasas, they were still devotees. And of course Nityananda kicked, I think, Shivananda Sen, and he took it as an act of mercy also. But they were all devotees, but this is a Rakshasi, and she didn't like it at all. She was trying to get away from Krishna, and he was there. So she forcibly got the mercy of Krishna, even though he was a little boy, a little baby. So, such stories will very, very wonderful. They show the mercy of Krishna, and they show the greatness of the devotee's love. Then, the story of Krishna eating dirt. Actually, this occurs twice. The story that shows that she looks in his mouth and sees the universal form. One more detail, once at the end of the chapter, and the next few chapters later it comes up again. So anyway, this is again a display of Krishna's Aishvarya. This time, not with the demons. Krishna voluntarily does it to Mother Yasoda. With the demons, then he kills the demon, and that shows his Aishvarya. He doesn't kill any demons at all, but he shows his power by showing himself as containing the whole universe. So the whole pretext is that this is when Krishna was a little older, because in their Sakya playing together with the cowherd boys, so they began to tease Krishna and say that Krishna's eating dirt, and then Krishna said, no, I didn't, and these boys are just trying to get me in trouble. So then Mother Yasoda is thinking, well, my son's pretty naughty and he tells lies sometimes, so I probably did eat the dirt. So then Krishna said, no, you then look at my mouth. I didn't take any dirt. So then she looked in his mouth, and then she saw everything inside. All the planetary systems were there, all the devatas were there, all the material elements were there, all the stars and the planetary system. Everything was inside. And she even saw herself, and she saw Vrindavan in there, she saw Krishna in there. So everything inside there. And she even saw herself looking at Krishna's mouth in there. So it was like a very shocking thing. And then she thought, oh, yeah, the whole universe is inside Krishna. And she realized that. But then she looked away. And then she began to consider, maybe I fell asleep and I had a dream. No, I'm not dreaming. I did fall asleep. Maybe I had a hallucination due to some reason, but no, I don't have any. I'm not a mad person. I don't have any. I'm not schizophrenic or something. I don't have any madness. And she went through everything. No, I can't do this. And then she concluded it must be some demons around here, causing trouble or something like that. So then she went and called the Brahmins and had them do some sacrifices and things to drive the demons away to protect Krishna. So maybe they're someone's trying to affect Krishna. So, actually, in this story, one other thing. When Krishna kills the demons, it's in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna killed the demon. But then the explanation is actually he didn't kill the demon. Exactly. It was his Shaktis that does it. Manakasa tree, or the axe-cuts tree, which isn't. It's kind of an axe cutting the tree, but actually it's the man behind the axe cutting the tree. There's an axe cuts the tree, but actually the man is also involved in it. Or you can say the man cuts the tree, but then of course the axe is also involved there. So when you say that Krishna kills it, he does it, but he's doing it through his energy, his Shakti. So his Shakti does it, not Krishna directly. So Krishna remains a little bit disciplined. He doesn't involve in the killing. So his Shakti is doing the killing by his will, of course. So anyway, the Shaktis are involved in his pastimes. The Lila Shakti, the Yogamaya Shakti, the Sanghara Shakti of destruction, and they all get involved, and sometimes they compete to see who can do more also. And sometimes they'll do it without, they detect a little bit of desire in Krishna or something, then they just do it, and they start acting just to please Krishna, or make arrangements for him. So, therefore, in this case, he manifested this through his Aishwarya Shakti, his power, his power of greatness, which is Aishwarya comes from Ishvara. Ishvara means Lord. So when Krishna shows the universal form, then he demonstrates his power as God. When Krishna displays the universal form to Arjuna, Arjuna said, "I want to see your vibhutis and your powers, because you're part of Brahman, you're a God, etc." So you show all your powers, and you show how you're a God, and how all these powers are in you. Yeah? So that's basically what Vishnu is displaying the powers of God. This is God, and he has all these things in him. He's the creator of everything, and everything rests within him. So, therefore, when Krishna showed all this to Yasoda, again, it is a statement, I am the Supreme Lord. Everything is within me. So it is similar to that Vishvarup that Krishna showed Arjuna also, on a smaller form because it's baby Krishna. But it's all the more astonishing because it's done without her consent or her wish, and it's also in this little form of a baby, which makes it more astonishing. So then Krishna's Aishwarya Shakti took hold and just displayed all of this remarkable form. And then she saw it. Anyway, there's an interesting theory in Art 43. There's a little commentary there, which is very interesting. For a moment, she began to become very detached. And she became like a jnani. And then she thought, well, when she saw that grandeur, etc., and then she thought, oh, maybe I should just give up everything and become like a yogi or something like that, become detached from everything. But then when she thought like that, then Krishna got a little worried that what's going to happen. I won't have a mother anymore. She starts becoming like this and becoming detached and becoming a jnani. So then immediately he couldn't allow this to happen anymore. Then suddenly her affection came back because of that, because he got so worried that he allowed her affection to appear again, and she resumed her normal feature as a mother, and then she just rejected that form completely. So this is some aspect of this Lila. So she was blinded by her love. This is not Yoga Maya taking away the vision or anything, and seeing the sun. This is her love, which will exclude this other vision. It's also real. Krishna displayed it, and then it was taken away, but it was not taken away by Yoga Maya. respectful, he said, and he said, "Oh, now, please forgive me, because I was treating you as a friend, and I was calling, oh Krishna, oh my friend, and I was sitting on the same seat with you, and joking with you, and sometimes I even making fun of you. So you please forgive me for all of this." So he remained, even though he was a friend, Sakha, still that memory of this universal form of Krishna as God remained. But for Yasoda, it did not remain. Completely wiped out. She's not thinking, oh, this my son is God also. No, her prema was so strong that immediately she forgot. So this illustrates, Krishna did this to illustrate her great love. Greater than Arjuna's love. Completely forgot. The prema would not allow it to happen. In relation to this, the story of there's the story of how they were, how Mother Yasoda Nanda got this. So then, Parikshit, Sukadeva Goswami says previously they were, Dara and Drona, and they were meditating on the Lord. They wanted to have the Lord as their son, so therefore they became Nanda and Yasoda. But this doesn't seem proper also, because they're not sadhana siddhas. They're eternal. So actually, Parikshit also wasn't very satisfied with that answer. So later on, then the story is told about the Damodar Lila. And by that, Sukadeva is indicating actually Yasoda and Nanda, they are the eternal parents of Krishna. There's no such thing as having practice. So when he tells this story, actually again, as in the case of Sutapa and Krishna, these are amsas only. And amsas of Yasoda and Nanda, expanded forms. They're not actual Nanda and Yasoda, they're expansions of them. And then when Nanda and Yasoda appear with Krishna, then they merge into the original forms again. So there's no question of sadhana at all for Nanda and Yasoda. They're eternally the parents of Krishna.
I just wanted to ask this word Vishwarupa and Virat.
Vishwarupa.
Vishwarupa and Virat.
Same.
It means the same thing.
Yeah.
As far as I can understand, the Brahma has divisions, like Vatsala, the
Yeah.
different bodies there. So, in this case of Arjuna's and Mother Yashoda's love, as you said, the love of Mother Yashoda, Brahma, Mother Yashoda is higher than Arjuna's Brahma. That in Vatsala is Vasu, Vatsala have higher than friends.
Sakya. Well, there's two things there. In general, it is also Arjuna's Sakya rasa is also mixed with Aishwarya. It's not Raja Sakya. In other words, there's also associates in Raja, that is the cowherd boys. That is also Sakya rasa, but it is different from Arjuna's. It is much greater. It is mixed with Madhurya, and there's no in that prema of where they carry Krishna on their shoulders, and Krishna carries them on their shoulders. Arjuna will not do that ever, and even though he's also a friend. So the friendship here of everybody in Raja and Vatsalya, whatever, is different. Like Vasudeva and Devaki, they're also Vatsalya rasa, but that is different from, is mixed with Aishwarya. And Mathura and Dwarka, they have all these things, but it is mixed. Even the queens of Dwarka, Madhurya rasa also. But it is married and is also on reverence, mixed. But in Raja, all these things are pure. There's no mixture at all. It's all Madhurya.
In Raja, everything is sweet and
Yeah. And the other thing is, there is a hierarchy. We have Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. And down, the grosser elements down to earth, you get more qualities in it. And sound is the quality of ether, and then air has sound plus touch, and then fire has sound, touch plus form, and water has addition and taste to that, the other three, and then earth has all five: sound, touch, form, taste, and fragrance. So earth has everything in it. So that is like Madhurya Rasa has everything in it. And Vatsalya has almost everything in it. And Sakya has a little less in it, and Dasya has a little less in it. In terms of the different bhavas and things like that. The elements of rasa are there. The five elements are always there in all the rasas. That is bhavas, anubhavas, Charabhavas, Satyaka bhavas, Sthayi bhavas, all of the elements are there. But the variety is just not so much, and intensity is not so much.
The neutral relationship, sometimes I don't know if I'm correct, it's an impersonal relationship?
It's a step above that. Because impersonal, if we say sayuja, then it's not much of a relationship because you don't see subject and object. There's nobody who loves it. Shanta, at least there's a distinction. Maybe like Paramatma or Bhagavan and the person. But it is neutral in the sense we don't serve him directly. We respect, we don't serve actively. So with Dasya, we accept him as our master, and we serve him directly. We have a direct relationship.
But the example of neutral are the trees, the fruits, like that, no?
In one place I've heard that they are more in the Shantarasa because it's not active. They don't have their own volition. So when Krishna uses them, fine, but otherwise it's like a Shantarasa. In the case of the flute, it may be a little special though. But like the trees and the things like that, and the grass, whatever, they just sit there, and then when the Krishna comes, then fine, then they can serve Krishna in that way. And Krishna can use them.
So they're the neutral.
So that's considered Shantarasa also, and by some persons. But that's a little different from the other Shantarasa, let's say of the Gyanis, who are a little distant, and they just want to be peaceful, and then they approach Krishna and they have a Shantarati. A little bit different.
And also it says that like Radharani and Balaram is source of all Shaktis and Shakas,
Yeah.
Jens and Vedis.
Yeah, Shakti.
And what about Madhurya Shodha? Radharani is the source of all Shaktis, and Madhurya Shodha is the embodiment of parental Shakti, right? So does it mean that she's coming from Radharani also?
Doesn't say anywhere. It doesn't say like that. I would assume not because it's a completely different mood. In other words, Radharani is a Hladini Shakti in the sense that maybe you could say in that sense because she is Hladini Shakti, and then all the inhabitants of Raja have Hladini Shakti also, but whether we can say she's the source of it or something, or whether they have a jurisdiction. I've never heard of her having a specific jurisdiction other than the fact that she is the Vatsalya Rasa incarnating like that, and of course Radharani is the Madhurya Rasa incarnating. But whether one comes from the other, whatever, I've never heard that.
I meant like Radharani, the embodiment of all rasas, right? So
Yeah.
everything included.
Yeah, everything is included there. All Vatsalya Rasa and everything is included within that one rasa. In that sense, we could say she's the source of everything. Yes.
But it's like Radhini also has different divisions of rasas, like Vasari.
Yeah, obviously the taste is different. It's there, but it's obviously it's a different taste.
And
Therefore,
there are different personalities for
oh, I haven't heard that. Probably there is, because everything is personality in the spiritual world, looks like. But of course, the Shaktis of Krishna in the spiritual world are also infinite. For our understanding, they just simplify everything, say there's Hladini Shakti and Sambit and Sandini Shaktis like this. And there's also 16 Shaktis, I think, in one place. 9 Shaktis in another place are mentioned, the Supreme Lord. Then, of course, we can take all the 16,108 gopis and say, well, are the queens of Dwarka that represent Shaktis, or the gopis in the Rasa Lila also represent Shaktis, also, which are in the billions. But for simplicity's sake, it is. I'm sure probably we'll see further elaboration on the different Shaktis also in other places. Because we speak like Kripa Shakti and Anugraha Shakti, or Anugraha, that's the Mercy Shakti, and then there's things like Pushti, Tushti, Shri, and others. So they're all represented by specific gopis and Krishnas, by Lakshmi forms, I think.
And then all other personalities, because this rasa, they coming from these personalities. These gopis are embodiment of different Shaktis, and from them whoever somehow relates to this Shakti.
Related. We can't say anything comes from anything because everything's eternal, but they're all being influenced, or they're presiding deity or whatever. Hey, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So today we'll try to cover a lot of things, since this is the last class. Tomorrow was inauguration of the festival. I think that's it, isn't it? 20th is finished.
Bhakti Jindra Mharaj is giving his, also doing the same, he's having his last class on the 21st.
Oh, he's extending it. And maybe I'll try to squeeze it all into that. Somehow. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, anyway. First we start out with another childhood Lila of Krishna, that is the Damodar Lila. This is very famous. We don't need any introduction to this. It is another Vatsalya Rasa Lila concerning parental love of Mother Yasoda. Mother Yasoda was churning the yogurt into butter. Krishna was sleeping, then he woke up, then he was hungry, so he went to Mother Yasoda and told her, stopped her from churning the yogurt, and got up on her lap, and then Mother Yasoda began to feed him her breast milk. And then Mother Yasoda heard the milk boiling over on the fire, and the milk boils over, it makes a big sound. And so she heard that sound in the kitchen, and she put Krishna down, and she ran to take the milk off the fire. And then Krishna got very angry because he wasn't satisfied. So he got a little stone and broke the yogurt pot, and then he ran away. Of course, his feet were all covered with yogurt too, so they made little footprints into the next room. Then he went to the next room and looked for the butter. And then he started breaking the pots there, feeding the monkeys. Then he went outside. He trailed outside. He went outside, and then he was sitting on top of the overturned mortar. And he was sitting there with the monkeys, feeding them. So Mother Yasoda came back, and then she realized, oh, must have been Krishna, because she saw his footprints. And then she tiptoed over, and then she realized he had gone outside. And she peeked outside, and she saw him sitting on top of the mortar, feeding the monkeys. And then she began to chase him, and he was looking around, and then he began to run away. And she eventually caught him, and then she said, well, I have to bind him up. In relation to this, there is several things. One is in the commentary Nectar of Devotion there, Vishnu Chakravarti says that this is an example where the Lord is not pleased by the service of the devotee. In other words, Mother Yasoda was taking the milk off the fire, and Krishna got angry. So this is an instance where devotional service is not pleasing to the Lord. But we cannot call it not devotional service. Obviously, Mother Yasoda's intention is pleasing Krishna. So therefore, it still has to be not. So we cannot say the definition of devotional service is anything that pleases Krishna. Because it's not please Krishna. He got angry. But it's still devotional service. On the other hand, we have some things which are also pleasing to Krishna, but they're not, we know they're not devotional service. That is when Krishna fights with demons. It is pleasing to Krishna. He likes to fight with the demons, but it's certainly not devotional service on the part of the demon because they hate Krishna. So their intention is wrong, therefore it's not devotional service. Whereas Mother Yasoda's intention is always 100% devotional, therefore it's devotional service. Whether Krishna is angry or not angry or whatever.
He's enjoying that anger, isn't he?
Huh?
He's enjoying that anger.
Yeah, but still it's anger. He was so angry he broke the pot of yogurt of Mother Yasoda. So, we cannot always say what is pleasing to Krishna is devotional service. What is done with an intention of pleasing Krishna, that is devotional service. We're trying to please Krishna with it. So that is what is also attractive to Krishna. So of course, we can also say that this anger of Krishna was not real anger because it's part of his Lila. Nevertheless, he manifested this type of bhava. Apart from that, when Mother Yasoda was binding Krishna up, or she decided to do that, then Krishna said, I cannot be bound up because I won't be able to play anymore with my friends and steal the yogurt. So I'm not going to allow this to happen. How can I allow it to happen? So we call it his Sankalpa Shakti, his desire, interfered with whatever Mother Yasoda was trying to do. And said, I cannot allow this to happen. So therefore, when Mother Yasoda got the rope and tried to tie him up, it was not long enough. And when she got more rope, it was still not long enough. And it was very surprising to Mother Yasoda. Why? Because she understood that Krishna couldn't expand because he was still little. And no matter how much rope she got, it was still too short. But he was still the same size. He didn't expand himself. He was still a little baby. And at the same time, she knew the rope wasn't getting any shorter because she kept on adding pieces of rope. But nevertheless, it was always 2 fingers too short. That was another thing. Why 2 fingers only? And every time she got rope, every time it was 2 fingers short. So this was very astonishing to Mother Yasoda. So the other cowherd women heard about this and they were watching Mother Yasoda and they began to laugh because it was actually very funny. Mother Yasoda kept on bringing rope, trying to tie him up, and it was always too short. So they said, oh, Mother Yasoda, you better stop this. It's the will of Providence that Krishna cannot, your son cannot be bound up like this. You don't try to bind him up. He wants to play, whatever. So you don't bind him up. But Mother Yasoda was determined that I must somehow or other teach Krishna a lesson. So I have to bind him up. So eventually she did bind him up. So how did that happen? Because Krishna said, I'm not going to be bound up. And his Sankalpa Shakti was determined that he wouldn't be bound up. So the reason is that Mother Yasoda's determination was such that the Kripa Shakti of Krishna interfered and said, you can no longer do this. And therefore, that desire that I have to play, etc., disappeared, and he allowed himself to be bound up. Why? Because he had mercy. When he showed mercy, that the Kripa Shakti became manifest when he saw that Mother Yasoda was endeavoring so hard. So, Vishnu Chakravarti explains that the significance of 2 fingers means there's 2 elements. One is parishram, which means endeavor, labor, work. That is the devotee. The devotee is very fixed in trying to do something for Krishna. And the other is the mercy of the Supreme Lord. And both are very strong. Both are very strong things. So if the endeavor of the devotee is very strong, if he's very determined to serve the Supreme Lord, then again, you have the mercy of Krishna. And if those 2 things are there, then Krishna gets bound up. So that if we don't have those 2 things, then Krishna's not bound. And if we have those 2 things, then Krishna gets bound up. So in other words, by our endeavor, Krishna shows mercy, and then he becomes subjected to the devotee. So that is what is taught by this story. Actually, all the verses are also very nice because they show it's all contradictory in one sense. Krishna is described as being, without beginning, without end. He is beyond all space and beyond all time. No beginning, no end in time, no beginning and no end in space. So how is it possible for Mother Yasoda to bind him up? And definitely very difficult to do also. Because Krishna had already showed, I am the universe, because he showed us the universe was inside him. So how can anyone bind up Krishna? The yogis also, they cannot control Krishna. The Gyanis cannot control Krishna also. So a very difficult thing to do. But we see that Mother Yasoda was able to do what the yogis and the Gyanis and everybody else cannot do. Why? Because of her great devotion and her great effort. Krishna came under her control. So this again glorifies the exalted status of Mother Yasoda, that she was able to bind up Krishna. So, in this Lila, he shows, we can say it's a chintya qualities. Achintya meaning inconceivable because things are contradictory. Like we say, achintya veda veda. Different and non-different. These are opposites. To be one and not to be one. To be one and different. They're two different things. Like black and white are opposites. So we cannot, how one thing can be two things. It can only be one thing. An object can be black or it can be white. It can't be black and white simultaneously. Or an object can be a microphone and it can't be a table. It can be one or the other. It can't be both simultaneously. But in Krishna, by his achintya shakti, opposites somehow disappear. And somehow both things can exist within the Supreme Lord. So this is shown by Krishna in this Lila. God is called Atma Rama. That is, he's completely satisfied in himself, completely peaceful, enjoys within, enjoys himself. He doesn't need anything else. He's self-sufficient, he's independent. Yet we see in Krishna, in this Lila, he was hungry. He was not Atma Rama. He wanted food, he wanted milk. He got angry. He had this desire for something. Supreme Lord is called Aptakama. He doesn't have any desires. He can fulfill his own desires within himself. If he wanted more, he wasn't satisfied with some milk. He wanted more and more and more. And Supreme Lord is supposed to be Sudasattva, pure goodness, beyond the modes of material nature. Yet Krishna showed anger. He got angry. Krishna, the Supreme Lord, is the consort of Lakshmi. Lakshmi is all wealth. So Krishna doesn't need any wealth, but he goes out and steals. As if he needs something. Krishna is beyond birth and death. He can't be killed or anything like that. He's beyond all fear. And yet he is fear of Mother Yasoda, so he runs away. And Krishna, of course, is faster than anything. Like in Upanishad said, no one can catch the Supreme Lord. He's faster than the fastest, faster than the mind, whatever. So the Supreme Lord, no one can catch him. But Mother Yasoda is able to run after Krishna and catch him. So in these ways, Krishna shows that, yes, he is God, but at the same time, he's not God, in one sense, because he contradicts all this. But in Krishna, all these things are simultaneously there. He can be fully satisfied and at the same time be hungry. He can be fearless at the same time be afraid of Mother Yasoda. He cannot be caught by anybody, but he's caught by Mother Yasoda. So God has shows in the form of Krishna particularly so many opposite qualities. So these are not something to be criticized. We shouldn't criticize Krishna for this, but this is his glory. operating where he can have opposite qualities, and there's no problem for him. And rather, it makes Krishna more attractive because he has these opposite qualities. So, in this way, Krishna showed that he actually becomes the servant of his devotee. We see, of course, in the example of he drives the chariot of Krishna, etc., of Arjuna. But this is even more so in the pastimes in Vrindavan, how Krishna becomes controlled by his devotee. And here we see an example of where he actually becomes tied up by Mother Yasoda, gets punished by Mother Yasoda. Even though he likes to play, that tendency disappeared because he wanted to please Mother Yasoda. So he becomes controlled by the love of Mother Yasoda completely. So he gets even tied up. So this is a great example of how Krishna becomes controlled by love. This is the ultimate quality, of course, of bhakti also. In Nectar of Devotion, you have 6 qualities. And the last one is Krishna Karshini. That bhakti attracts Krishna, pulls Krishna. Krishna is all attractive. Krishna also means Karshana. Krishna pulls everybody. He's attracted to everybody. But bhakti pulls Krishna. Bhakti attracts Krishna. So ultimately Krishna comes under surrenders to the bhakti of the devotee. And he becomes a servant of the devotee. So this is shown here how he becomes a servant of Mother Yasoda. Similarly, of course, then the other example, of course, is that he becomes the servant of Radharani also, because this is in the conjugal rasa. Krishna becomes controlled by the love of Radharani. He becomes her servant also there. What's that? Oh, yeah, the 6 qualities of bhakti, yeah. Klesha Vigni, to destroy suffering. Subhada, to bestow auspiciousness. In other words, bhakti will destroy all the bad things we don't like about the material existence, all the suffering, ignorance, desires, karma, etc. And it will bestow good things, that is, good qualities which are manifest in, of course, Supreme Lord, and in the jiva, in his pure state, they begin to manifest. Subhada. And so that the devotee becomes attractive to everyone. Of course, there's different definitions of subhada. One is that the devotee becomes attractive to all living entities. Another is the living entity becomes compassionate to all devotees. The other is that the devotee develops all good qualities. Not sattva good qualities, but spiritual qualities. And the last one is sukha. He becomes happy. Not materially happy, but spiritually happy. So that's the second quality. Third one is moksha laguta kriti. He thinks that liberation is insignificant. It is no longer the goal. It is something very insignificant, like the water in a calf's footprint. It's nothing. It's just a little drop of water in the desert. Fourth quality is rarity. It is rarely attained. In other words, of course, bhakti in the beginning is not so rare. Sadhana bhakti is not so rare. The first 2 qualities appear in sadhana bhakti. Second 2 qualities, that is laguta kriti, moksha laguta kriti, and durlabha, these are in bhava bhakti. So bhava bhakti is rare. That is very rare. Why? Because Krishna starts giving himself there. And Krishna doesn't give himself to everybody. And you can't do it by any mechanical means. It is only by that pure love that Krishna will give himself to the devotee. So it's very, very rare. It's not a mechanical process which will do that like yoga or jnana or anything else. So it's very rare. The 5th quality is that it is sandrananda, condensed bliss, or very, very intense bliss. This appears in prema. Of course, in bhava, which is the previous stage where these other 2 third and fourth quality appear, that is also blissful. But the quality in prema is intense bliss, extremely intense bliss, sandrananda. More than bhava, and bhava is much more, a million many times more than the bliss of Brahman, impersonal liberation. That's why in Bhava they reject liberation, because it is nothing. That bliss is nothing compared to Bhava. But Bhava compared to Prema is also nothing. It is one ray of the sunlight. The sun is Prema, and Bhava is one ray of that sun. So therefore the intensity of Ananda in Prema is so much more than it is in Bhava. But nevertheless, Bhava is actually a little bit of Prema, that's what it is. So it's a genuine experience of Krishna, but it is very little. And then when it's full, it becomes Prema. So that's the fifth quality. And the last one is Krishna Karshini. It attracts Krishna. Of course, that doesn't mean only Krishna, because even Narayan is attracted to his devotee also. And the verses are like that, I think in relation to Ambarish. There it is said, Vishnu says, I am in my devotee, and my devotee is in me. So even for Vishnu, he is also attracted by his devotee and that bhakti, and he gives himself to him and protects them.
This is an act of devotion, no?
Yeah. In the that first section, Samanya Bhakti, the general description of bhakti, 6 qualities are listed there. And so the first 2 appear in sadhana, the second 2 in bhava, and the third 2 in prema, the last 2 in prema bhakti. So these are unique to bhakti. We will not see these in moksha, we will not see them in karma or yoga.